if you look at the countries that are joining on to these unions, most of them are incredibly resource rich, and many of them have been underutilized. And that's China, and these countries are going in a cooperative manner instead of a coercive manner. And they're industrializing these countries. They're building roads and bridges and maritime channels. They're cooperating and building gold and silver mines and oil refineries and taking a piece of it, yes, in a cooperative manner. That's what cooperation and mutual benefit is. But they're industrializing these countries and bringing the middle class to the forefront as ours are disappearing.
Central banks worldwide have been making historic gold purchases since early 2022 and continuing into the fourth quarter of this year. Their pursuit stems from a quest for safe havens amidst high inflation and volatile bond prices. Faced with concerns over the freeze of Russian assets by the US and other nations, these banks have chosen to acquire physical gold rather than derivatives or exchange-traded funds tracking the metal's price. Andy Schectman, CEO of Miles Franklin, observes an intriguing trend among central banks: their unprecedented accumulation of gold and silver. Not only do these banks possess immense wealth, but they also harbor a substantial depth of knowledge and awareness regarding global economic scripts and strategies. The reclassification of gold as the world's only other Tier 1 reserve asset by the Bank of International Settlements, BIS, in 2019 has gone relatively unnoticed in mainstream media. Andy sees this as a significant move, prompting questions about why gold was chosen over options like special drawing rights by the IMF or another currency. Reports have emerged of Chinese bank traders recently amassing substantial amounts of gold. Commodity analysts at TD Securities noted that Chinese traders purchased around 17.5 tons of notional gold in mid-November. China's accumulation of $15 billion of gold since 2022 strongly signals the People's Bank of China's, PBBOC, intention to increase its gold reserves further. Turkey's recent record purchases of gold and silver also underscore a collective effort among countries to acquire these precious metals. Turkey's substantial acquisitions this year amount to around 6 million ounces of gold and a record-breaking 32 million ounces of silver, indicating their interest in joining the larger coalition seeking membership in the BRICS. Andy also highlights the massive silver imports by countries like India and China, surpassing notable quantities traded on the COMEX. This underscores silver's significant, albeit less publicized, role in these geopolitical and economic shifts. We'll share clips from Andy Schectman's interview with Liberty and Finance. But before that, if you'd like more videos, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for updates. Thank you and enjoy the video.
And what have we seen over the last 2 years? These same central banks, and even an expanding list of them, are accumulating more gold and silver than at any time in the history of central banking. And I would tell you that not only are these central banks the wealthiest people in the world, obviously, but they're also the most well-informed. And when you realize that they know the script, they know the playbook, they're always 2 steps ahead of the public. Look, the fact that gold was reclassified the world's only other Tier 1 reserve asset in 2019 by the Bank of International Settlements, which has gotten no press by anyone but us conspiratorialists. And the fact that I harped on that for a very long time is something people should understand. I mean, why, after almost 70 plus years, would the BIS say gold's Tier 1? Why not special drawing rights by the IMF or another currency? But to choose gold, to me, caught my attention. And then to see the central banks remove counterparty risk by repatriating their gold from the Bank of England and the New York Fed, which would be the COMEX and the LBMA for convenience sake for these countries to trade and whatnot. They said, no, we'd rather have it back. Well, that caught my attention too. And then when you look at the rise of the Belt Road Initiative, a growing group of countries that right now is nearly 75% of human population, 50% of global GDP and growing. Well, that's something that caught my attention. And that's what led me on to the BRICS. And when I started down this pathway, I never thought that this was what it would turn out to be. But the growing coalition that we see in the BRICS, in the Belt Road, in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, in the Eurasian Economic Union, which are all the same countries, and they all have the same agenda, and that is to push back against the 500-year Western dominance. The Western hegemony has been going on for 500 years as far as these countries are looking at it. And they've never had a chance to stand up to the West. They've never had the military might or the GDP or the wealth or the sophistication, but they do now, and they're finding safety in numbers. And the growing coalition which is also very concerning. If you look at the countries that are joining on to these unions, most of them are incredibly resource rich, and many of them have been underutilized. And that's China, and these countries are going in a cooperative manner instead of a coercive manner. And they're industrializing these countries. They're building roads and bridges and maritime channels. They're cooperating and building gold and silver mines and oil refineries and taking a piece of it, yes, in a cooperative manner. That's what cooperation and mutual benefit is. But they're industrializing these countries and bringing the middle class to the forefront as ours are disappearing. Turkey bought record amount of gold so far this year, and they're up year to date to somewhere around 6 million ounces, about 190 tons. And I saw that they just imported a record amount of silver, about 32 million ounces, almost 1,000 tons, which would be 32,150,000 or whatever. India imported 60 million ounces of silver in October and 304 million last year. That's more than Nazan Comex. So yes, they are importing it. It's just not getting the attention that gold is. But that's no small potatoes. In the last year and a half, India has bought 360 million ounces of silver. And so you got Turkey and China and India. Well, Turkey just is one of the countries of the 20 that is applying to the BRICS. And so they're buying massive amounts of gold and silver. They're striking deals with Russia and with Saudi Arabia and with China. And they are now one of the 20 countries that is applying to BRICS formally.
The extension of Western sanctions across the financial system, often called dollar weaponization, has incentivized several large emerging market economies to redirect their foreign holdings towards gold. Depending on the storage locations, this strategy is perceived as less vulnerable to confiscation. The BRICS group of emerging markets is intensifying its pursuit of greater global influence and its challenge against the U.S., seizing an opportunity amidst a fragmented world order to expand its membership beyond Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Andy speculates that while there might have been intentions or aspirations to introduce a common settlement currency in August, the involved nations prioritized meticulous planning over hastiness, acknowledging the monumental significance of the step they were contemplating. He believes that the eventual formation of this coalition will establish a formidable force challenging to contest once established. Although certain events involving banks or currency fluctuations might act as catalysts, the actual realization of this transition might take longer than anticipated by some, leading to a sudden realization one day when these nations are well prepared to confront Western opposition. Expressing confidence in the likelihood of a new currency system emerging, Andy references ongoing petro deals and their implications for the dollar's role in oil transactions. He underlines the escalating probability, nearly 100% in his estimation, of this transformation occurring. Let's get back to the interview.
11 countries in the BRICS. There were 12, but evidently Argentina is staying out right now with their new regime, and 20 that have formally applied and another 20 that want to. In cryptocurrency, they always talk about mass adoption. I think it's the same thing here. You need a mass adoption of countries. The difference between the West and the East is that the question that Sarge is asking is one we all want to know. And instant gratification in this country is not fast enough. And, people get a lot of crap for saying things online that don't materialize immediately. And I'm not saying this, directing this at him, but what I'm saying is that I believe that's exactly why maybe they had aspirations of issuing some form of a common settlement currency in August, but realize that, hey, if we're going to do this, let's do it the right way. You get one shot, you get one swing. And if you don't knock him out, he's going to come at you hard. And so I think they are building a coalition that will be very hard to challenge once it happens. Now, maybe there will be an event here with the banks or with the dollar or whatever that precipitates it. But I would say probably longer than most people will want to see, those that believe this is happening in terms of seeing it play out. I don't think any of us want to see this, but I just think it will happen in a manner. It will happen on a Monday morning, Sunday night. We'll wake up to a new reality, and it will happen at a point when they're in a position to stand up to anything the West wants to throw its way. And is it a coincidence that Putin, who hasn't left the country, makes an impromptu trip flanked by 4 Russian fighter jets to the UAE before he goes to Saudi Arabia in an unannounced trip. Could it be that that is what this is about? Hey, we got you, or who knows? I don't know. And then he goes to Saudi Arabia, and then they announce a 2 million barrel reduction in output. Could it be coincidental? I don't know. But again, all of these things that, Rick Rule often says we live in a world of probabilities, not guarantees. And I agree. I would say the probability of this happening grows by the day. The time frame, again, will be impossible. I think anyone who issues a time frame is guessing, and I think it diminishes the credibility of the statement. My statement is, okay, fine. What does Occam's razor say? The most logical explanation prevails. Look at all of these things happening. It's leading somewhere. That somewhere to me is a new currency that will be taken for oil. I mean, look at it this way also. Part of the petro deal that was struck was that not only will they sell oil for dollars, which has created a synthetic demand world over, but that OPEC would take those dollars and recycle them into US treasuries. How's that done for them in the last few years? So they're getting crushed on their treasuries. They're getting inflated away by up to 10% a year. If you look at what John Williams would say, 7 to 10% per year or more. And then the country that's doing that is supposedly the petrodollar protecting us. Well, there are other people doing that now. And then they sign an executive order to go green. So all of these things are leading somewhere. So the probability that it happens, I believe, is close to 100%. When it happens, or what precipitates it, or what is the follow-up immediately after, I don't know. Use your mind's eye. I wish I could be more specific. If I had to guess, it would coincide with some form of real dilemma here in the United States where, look, if the Fed all of a sudden starts to pivot and print again and destroy the value of the dollar, what is the incentive for holding a depreciating currency and then recycling it into treasuries that are, for the first time in 45 years, more volatile than gold? Why? And I think that's what is happening here. So they're plotting, and they're going to do it the right way. They're not going to shotgun it and say, oh, crap, we screwed up. Now what? Let's go back to the way it was. No. Once you cross that line, there's no coming back. So they're going to do it with a very large, substantial mass of everything that you would need to make it work. So who knows? A year, 2, 6 days, don't know, but it's coming.
While central banks are still accumulating gold as insurance rather than moving towards immediate implementation of a gold-based financial system, the continuous upward trajectory of government spending and inflation could precipitate a shift. What does this global surge in central banks buying gold and silver mean for the future of international finance? Share your observations in the comments section below. Also, ensure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.